Yesterday, once again, Shaul was passing, trying to get David, but David managed to escape from the clutches of Shaul. And in the end of the chapter, it came with Shaul once again admitting and telling David that he's thankful that David really is going to be king, and calls David his son, and doesn't use the term Ben Yishai, but calls him his son. And that's where we take over in today's chapter. So we're beginning chapter 27. Vayomer David el libo ata esafeh yom echad biad Shaul ein li tov ki himalet el eretz plishtim v'noash mimeni Shaul v'aksheni od b'gvul Yisrael v'nimlatati miado. David says, someday I shall certainly perish in the hands of Saul. The best thing for me is to flee the land. Saul will then give up hunting me throughout the territory, and I will escape him. So again, David at the beginning, when he first runs away, tries to get out of the land. It doesn't work, but then he tries again to get out of the land. A second time now is what he is trying to do. Vayakam David, vayavor hu v'sheish meot ish asher imo el Achish ben Malach melech Gat. So David leaves, and he goes with his 600 men to Achish, the king of Gat. And this is the second time he's tried to run to the Plishtim. The first time he seemed like a threat, and they told him that they would he was scared, and he feigned madness, and he managed to escape that way. What's going to happen this time? This time it seems better. Vayeshev David im Achish begad hu va'anashav yishu veito David u'shtei nashav Achinoam Yisraelit v'Abigail eshet Naval Carmelit. And David stayed with Achish for a long time, along with his two wives, Achinoam and Abigail. Of course, he has a third wife. His third wife is, of course, Michal, the daughter of Shaul. But as we learned in past chapters, Michal has been David had to run away from her because, of course, Shaul wanted to kill him, and in the aftermath of that, Michal has been given over from David to a person named Palti ben Lai. So that's why it says the two wives. And here also something to point out is the first time it didn't work. But now, if we think this is 6 months, a year, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, it's not clear at what point in time this happens. The Plishtim have been going to war against Shaul multiple times. And what they notice is, of course, David is not there. David's not at the battle. So this time they may believe that David is no longer part of the Israelite community. He's no longer their enemy. And maybe that's the reason why they allow him to stay with them as opposed to the last time. Verse 4, Vayugad l'Shaul ki varach David gat velo yasaf od levaksha. Shaul was told that David ran to Gat, to one of the cities of the Plishtim, and Shaul no longer is chasing him. Okay, so David now is no longer being chased by Shaul. That has now come to an end. It's not something that's going to be happening anymore. And so there is a certain sense of confidence, as such, if you want to put it as such, that David has at this time, that everything is going to turn out okay for him. And so, and this is a critical moment, we could say, in the life of David, because this is the end of this moment where he was being chased, right? He was being chased by Shaul. And now he's finally is able to not worry about that. However, he's living with the Philistines. And that's verse 5. Vayomer David el Achish, if nam matzati chem beinecha yitnu lanu li makom ba'achat arei hasadeh ve'eshva sham ve'lama yeshev avdecha be'ir ha'mamlecha imach. David says, if it's okay, can you give me a town where I can live? I'm your servant. Do I have to remain here in your royal city, in the palace with you? Vayitein lo Achish b'yamahu et Siklag. L'chein hayta Siklag l'malchei Yudah ad hayom hazeh. So Achish said, okay, go live in the city of Siklag. And so we're told, even though at this point, obviously, Achish doesn't think he's giving it over to a king of Yehuda, that Siklag remains a city of Yehuda until for all times. That's what it remains. That's what it is up to this time, and that's what it's going to be from this moment in time. Verse 7. So David remains in Philistine territory for a year and 4 months, for a total of 16 months. And during this time, Vayal David v'anashav v'afshitu et hageshuri v'agrizi v'amaleki ki einei yoshvot haaretz asher me'olam bo achashura v'ad eretz Mitzrayim. During this time, David begins raiding the Geshurite, the Grizi, the Amalekis. People are living in the southern regions of Israel, going all the way down to the territory of the the territory of Mitzrayim. And what we can see at a certain extent is, right, this is David already starting to vanquish the enemies of Israel, even though he's pretending to be on the side of the Philistines. He's making, he's killing the enemies of Israel. David, a complete massacre. And then he would take the spoils and he would go to Achish. Vayomer Achish, al peshatetem hayom. And Achish would ask him, what did you go and raid? What did you go and destroy? Vayomer David, al negev Yehuda, vel neged Yifraimili, vel negev HaKeni. And David wouldn't say that he's attacking the Geshuri, the Amaleki. He said, we attacked the negative of Yehuda, the negative of Yerachmiel, the negative of the Keni. I.e., what he's telling him is, we're attacking the enemies of your enemies. We're attacking the Israelites. That's who we're attacking. We're not attacking other people. That's what David would say. And that because he wanted, of course, Achish to believe that he was with Achish and on the side of the Philistines. And David wouldn't leave a man or a woman alive to be brought to Gat. For he thought they might tell us that, right, that we're not attacking the Israelites, the Judeans, but we're attacking the Judeans' enemy. And he doesn't want that, of course, to be reported to the king of Gat. This is what David did all the time they lived in the territory of the Plishtim. And Achish trusted David. We know the word amen. Right, that's the root of this word, the emunah, belief, emun, trust, but really in the biblical sense, it means support. Here it may mean to trust him, to support him, lemor, havesh yivish ba'amo b'Yisrael v'haya li le'eved olah. And Achish says about David that David has attacked the enemies of Bnei Yisrael, and now he's going to be united with me forever. That's Achish's understanding. That's his belief that David is going to no longer allied with the Israelites, but he's allied now simply and only with the Plishtim, with the Philistines, and thinks that everything is going to work out just great for David and for his men. And we see here as a significant thing. There's obviously a major shift, and there's some things to ask here. In chapter 25, when David was about to attack Naval and kill all his men and threatening he was going to kill all the men. Nobody who pees on the wall would remain alive were the words David used. So here David is coming back, and once again, he's being very militaristic. Now it's giving an excuse that it shouldn't show that he really is still allied with the Israelites, but his destruction of everybody you have to at least ask somewhat questioning these ideas. David, it's right, we have this tug and pull with David. Is he a person of who's following God? At times he goes to war, or is he going to be just somebody who is massively conquering and looting and destroying people, which is the big threat of in his time versus Naval. And there, of course, Abigail stops him in the middle. And so here we have this chapter where it seems to me it's not 100% clear still. But we know as David is no longer scared, he's scared, but he's no longer worried that Shaul is going to fight him. He can stay in a place. He is allying himself with the Philistines, or so it's believed. And that we'll see what happens as a result of that in the coming chapters.